gonna take all of us to heal this world. It's gonna take all of us.
Day 3 at COP28, and today we're going to do things a little bit differently. Our youth reporters are going to give us a tour of the Blue Zone, as well as check out some of the country's pavilions. We'll also be answering some of your questions from Slido, which, by the way, thank you very much for sending them in. People are mainly asking about what countries are going to do to get the planet back to 1.5 by 2030. We'll also be checking in on the winners of the Polar Race for Good and take a ride on the Creative Velo. Let's check out the Blue Zone. So today we sent in our youth reporters to the Blue Zone to check out some of the pavilions, including Ethiopia, Singapore, and the Congo.
My name is Adefris Werku. I am the chair for the Green Legacy Technical Committee of Ethiopia.
So today we are at COP and would love to know what Ethiopian Green Legacy is doing to reduce the emissions and also to bring the temperature to 1.5 degrees, because I'm seeing some exciting work here. You can elaborate more.
Yeah, thank you very much for that very timely and important question. As we all know that Ethiopia is one of the countries which is very much affected by the changing climate. But our threat is not only climate change, but also natural resource degradation, loss of ecosystem services. So to address these socio-economic and environmental challenges, Ethiopia has been doing several nature-based intervention, one of which is the Green Legacy Initiative. Actually, the Green Legacy Initiative, at its center, it is a people program, and which is owned by all citizens of Ethiopia, because the Green Legacy Initiative is, an initiative, a flagship program that has given an opportunity to all citizens, all walks of life, where farmers own it, pastoral community own it, so that it is a program that has been implemented from rural to urban area to address some, these challenges of the day, one of which is climate change, natural resource degradation, loss of biodiversity, so on and so forth. So before enter into implementing the Green Legacy Initiative and also other interventions or economic development programs, we had this NDC, Nationally Determined Contribution, which is a very ambitious one. Like Ethiopia, though our contribution to the changing climate is very insignificant, not only for Ethiopia, for many developing countries, particularly in Africa, who suffer a lot because of climate change, has pledged to minimize or to reduce emission by 68% by 2030. So Ethiopia's NDC is very much aligned with 1.5 degrees centigrade emission reduction. So, we don't see it simply after, enacting that policy or that strategy. Then we entered into an intervention. So Green Legacy Initiative is started in 2019 to plant 20 billion seedlings, and up to 2026 we wanted to plant about 50 billion seedlings. This is going to be the largest tree planting campaign, actually, if we are going to finish it by 2016. So within this Green Legacy Initiative, we wanted to contribute to climate change mitigation. We wanted to also strengthen social ecological resilience of our people, but also we wanted to other countries to join us, so that Ethiopia has been, sharing, actually not very big, but we have been trying to share some germplasm, some seedlings with our neighboring countries. Now many countries have been joining Ethiopia. In fact, we wanted the Green Legacy Initiative to be a Pan-African program, actually. This is, at its center, it says that later is too late, actually. When we discuss about climate change, we say that later is too late. Yeah, my critical message for the youth is that take over the world. You are now the responsible generation to lead and to act timely so that your future will be the best one. So that the youth need to really lead us. They need to intervene timely so that they will have a better future. That is my message for the youth. It takes all of us.
Always time for a quick coffee stop. So what is the question of the day? Everyone's been asking a bit more about what loss and damages are. Let's find out.
Now, for those of you who don't know about the loss and damage funds, we need to understand that it's something that has been in the coming for years now, 30 long years. And so this is a truly historical moment. $400 billion will go a long way. Now, the fund was created to cater to vulnerable nations across the globe. And the reason for this is that the most hard hit by the climate crisis are in fact the vulnerable nations, because they do not contribute to the gas emissions, to the climate crisis as much as the bigger nations. So we saw contributions coming from the larger economies like the United States of America. We had contributions from the UAE and also Germany, Japan, and Europe as well, and the UK, the United Kingdom. So all of this money, we're so glad to have it, and we're looking forward to seeing change in the coming years. Well, that's a good question. In fact, it does. Like I said, it set a positive start to COP28. It set a really, really positive start. Having the agreement finalized, having the agreement operationalized. The fund it has put a positive steps to everything. It's tying it all together, and we're hopeful that in the coming days we're going to see more ambitious decisions. We're going to see stronger steps taken towards achieving the Paris Agreement.
Singapore has also been one of the leading countries in climate mitigation. Let's hear what they have to say.
Okay, I'm here with Christine at the Singapore Pavilion. And Christine, can you tell us more about yourself, please?
Sure. Thanks, Tenny. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. So wonderful to be interviewed by you here at COP28. So I'm a social entrepreneur, philanthropist, and climate investor based in Singapore. I've been invited by the Singapore delegation to attend COP. It's my first time, so I'm really excited. Some of the work I do is focused on supporting vulnerable women across Asia and Africa. I organize expeditionary travel for all-female teams around the world as a way to raise awareness and funds for women impacted by climate change and also women impacted by violence and abuse. I also have several board roles focused on sustainable investing, climate investing, gender lens investing. So trying to move as much capital as possible towards solutions that could benefit women in particular, but also the more vulnerable communities that are most impacted by climate change.
Okay, I've also heard about the NGO that you have,
Yes.
Planet. Is that correct?
Planet.
Can you tell us more about it, please?
Yes, so I have two NGOs. One is called Women on a Mission, and the other one, as you said, is Her Planet Earth. Both use expeditionary travel as a way to raise awareness and funds for vulnerable women, as I said, but Her Planet Earth focuses specifically on women impacted by climate change, because I discovered through my research that women were disproportionately affected not just by violence and abuse, economic crisis, but also by climate change. And unfortunately, in our part of the world where I reside in Asia and also many parts of Africa, women are at the forefront of climate change because we hold the majority of the agricultural roles, with what is happening in terms of the feminization of agriculture. As men go to the cities to look for work, women and children are left often tending to the crops, responsible for collecting food and water, and are at the forefront of what's happening with climate change. They're really feeling the brunt of it. And so I realized that we need to support them in different ways, not just about raising awareness, but also raising capital and funds and helping them strengthen their livelihoods to make them more resilient to what's happening with the climate.
That's truly incredible. But I had expeditions. I've read that you take these women through Antarctica to so many incredible places. Can you tell us more about
Yes, I've been very fortunate over the last 12 years to lead about almost close to 200 women of all mixed nationalities, ages, and backgrounds, from 22 years old to 61 years old. We do this as a way to not only take women who have the privilege to do that out of their comfort zone as a transformational experience, because there's no better way to become an advocate for women and especially for the environment than to immerse yourself in these experiences in remote places. So I've been doing this, taking women to, as you said, to Antarctica, to the Arctic. We've been to Greenland. We've crossed deserts in Iran. We've crossed the Danakil Depression, the hottest desert on earth in Ethiopia, across mountains in the Himalayas in Europe. And all this as a way to push ourselves and to rally our communities to stand up and pay attention to why are these groups of women doing this. We're doing this not just to put a spotlight on these issues that are so important, supporting vulnerable women in emerging markets, but especially to raise funds. And we do this through rallying our communities to make donations. We organize events, we give talks, we work with polar explorers, scientists, we organize film screenings as a way to bring the community together and then raise more funds to support these meaningful causes. More recently, I took 17 women across the Namib Desert, the oldest desert in the world, in Namibia. And so that was a really beautiful expedition. We raised a lot of money for women impacted by violence for that specific trek. But yeah, I do this regularly. It's really an empowering exercise as well, not just for me, but for my teammates. Earlier this year, I got the chance to work with scientists from the Earth Observatory of Singapore. So this was not one of my expeditions, but I was there just to support the group of scientists. We had filmmakers from Sydney as well. So the scientists came to Antarctica to do some tests on the Antarctic ice sheet to measure the rate of melt and the effects, of course, of what this would have on Asia in particular. So the Earth Observatory is one of the leading scientific groups out of Asia, out of Singapore in particular. And our professor who was leading the trip, Professor Benjamin Horton, is one of the leading sea level rise specialists as well around the world. So, there's a lot more awareness that needs to be done about climate change. A lot of people think that what's happening in the Arctic, in both Antarctica and in the polar ice caps in general, don't impact them. But in fact, we are completely connected. The whole system of oceans and climate are interlinked. And unfortunately, a lot of countries with coastal cities will be impacted. 4 out of 5 people actually who will be impacted by sea level rise reside in Asia, and Southeast Asia in particular. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to raise the alarm and raise the awareness, because we need to let people know that this is happening and it impacts every single one of us around the world.
Thank you so much for that. And how would you rate the importance of investment in innovation for climate change?
So there's a lot of work that can be done, not just in the philanthropic space, but also in the investment side, because a lot of the solutions that are going to help us tackle climate change require capital to scale and develop. So a lot of the work that we need to do is looking at capital and how that can help scale up solutions for climate change. So as part of my role as a board member, I'm on 2 VC funds as a board member. We have funds in Australia, Singapore, and Africa, and these funds are dedicated to support young entrepreneurs who are working on innovative technologies and solutions that can really put a dent on emissions across many industries. So this is really important because we can't just look at philanthropy. That's really important too, but we need to move capital in an urgent manner. And COP today is also about that. There's a lot of conferences at the moment looking at gender lens investing, climate investing. How can we move more capital? We had an announcement a couple of days ago about the Damage and Loss Fund. I think they've committed $300 million, but that's still not enough. We're going to have to raise much more money. We need trillions of dollars over the next 10 years to really support vulnerable countries. So everybody has to step up to the plate. The urgency is really here. So I've been invited by the Singapore government. We are partners here. So we have a delegation of different parties, non-profits, government, business community. And we're really here to deepen the bonds of collaboration. That's really what we're here for. Everybody has different roles. It's a privilege to be invited as part of the delegation, of course. But we are here really to continue those relationships with our different stakeholders in our different roles. Because of course, Singapore is playing a leadership role in the space. It's wonderful to see that. This is the second time that we have a pavilion at COP. The first pavilion that Singapore had was in Egypt last year. And so I'm sure we're going to continue that trend because we are definitely playing a leadership role in the region, trying to move capital, play host to ASEAN nations as well. Increasing collaboration in food tech space, for example. Singapore has recently become a food tech capital through the pandemic. So I worked on some of these initiatives through cultivated meat as well. Singapore became the first country in the world to give regulatory approval for the sale of such meat, so meat made from cells in a bioreactor, to address some of the security issues that we have around food supply in our part of the world. So lots to do, and Singapore is really stepping up to the plate as well and hosting many events in this space.
Thank you very, very much. It's been lovely meeting you.
It certainly takes all of us, and I'd like to share a little message to the youth. You are our future, you're our hope. I have 4 children myself, and so what I'm doing today is also for their future. Just believe in the power that you have to come up with innovative solutions and ideas that are going to impact our planet, impact our world for the better. I believe in you, and all our generation really does believe in you. You are capable to solve the big problems of our world with our support.
Trending news of COP28 in Germany today. The commitments made by the United Arab Emirates and Germany to the loss and damages funds are currently receiving a lot of attention in the German media. In particular, the media debate is focused on the question of whether, and if so how, China could react to the pledge. German Development Minister Svenja Schulze was quoted by Redaktionsnetzwerk Deutschland saying that she is calling for China and other emerging economies to participate following the example of the United Arab Emirates. Further media attention is focused on the upcoming visit of German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Dubai. Critical voices are pointing to the lack of substance in his climate policy measures. An article in Die Zeit criticizes the fact that German climate policy under Scholz has shrunk to an industrial policy issue, which he claims to answer with state subsidies, when at the same time the German public is well aware that climate protection will justifiably come at a cost for everyone. Another topic of the reporting is the long-prepared establishment of an exclusive climate club. It is seen as one of the main projects that Scholz introduces to the conference. Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung criticizes the lack of substantive objectives and the incomplete preparation of the project.
Today, I sat in an interesting plenary, particularly focusing on elevating youth and underrepresented voices. It was most interesting on the impact of climate on education. While one child has the opportunity to attend school, another child is denied the opportunity to attend school. So let's hear what they have to say.
waxaynu saameeyeen abaartii oo kale biilaan ayaa nagu dhacday waxaan dareemay baahi iyo cabsi weyn
Ieri è bilo drugačije tada kad se desila ta poplava. Morali smo da se iselimo iz domova, da idemo u druge gradove.
I wish I could say yes, but no.
dadka weyn cimilada waxba ma aysan ka qaban فلوس كتير لكن زمان لو كانوا عملوهم من بدري كانش يحتاج كل المبالغ دي
I bet all they do is fight about, I think we should do this, no, I think we should do that, no, I actually think we should do this. Se vocês continuarem queimando, a gente vai morrer nesse calor.
فبيت كتسكايت انه تنين كسا سايرة ناكيلا كارامبولا يتوم ساي تميتو فوميكا وسايرة ناتسيكا.
Stop fighting for once and let's focus on the important stuff.
يحاولوا أكتر شوية.
طبعا لو ما اتخذنا إجراءات لتغيير المناخ راح ندفع الثمن في المستقبل.
Well, no offense, but you guys only have a few years left to live. And meanwhile, I'm 11. I have my whole life to live, and I want to live it.
Adultos, se vocês não estão lembrando, vocês têm que cuidar das crianças. وأن نحن لازم نحافظ على بيئتنا لأن هذا كوكبنا نحن ونحن لدينا المسؤولية لكي نحافظ عليه.
Stop talking about and actually do it.
Klimatske promjene su mnogo moj život.
Assalamu alaikum, Your Highness, Excellencies, distinguished guests, children, youth, and educators. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the World Climate Action Summit, presidency event of COP28 focused on youth and education, the latent force of climate action and the first of its kind. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mariam Al-Mansouri, and I am the general manager of a UAE-based company called Rebound Plastics, with a global impact when it comes to the recycling plastic space. And it's my honor to be your moderator for this event. As we just witnessed in the opening video, climate change is impacting children and youth in unprecedented ways. And you can hear the frustration, sense of urgency, and hope in their voices. And they're calling on you, leaders of the world, for bold and inclusive action. With the voices of youth still fresh in our minds, I would like to introduce one of the incredible 100 COP28 International Youth Climate Delegates who are amongst us today. May I ask some of them with us here to raise their hands? Okay. And now I would like to give the stage to Ferdinand Valmond from the Commonwealth of Dominica to share how climate change has affected his life. Thank you.
Distinguished heads of state, esteemed delegates of the COP28 and fellow youth, Mabrika, the greetings of my native language. My name is Ferdinand Valmond from the Commonwealth of Dominica, a COP28 International Youth Climate Delegate, land of 365 rivers, and home to the last surviving pre-colonial tribe in the West Indies, the Kalinago people, and a country that is on its path to becoming the world's first climate-resilient country. This speech was drafted together with indigenous youth from around the world. As both a climate and indigenous youth activist, I too have and continue to be affected by the impacts of climate change. And I recognize the voice of youth as the torchbearers of the future. As a result, from the age of 15, I pushed myself to be the change that I wish to see. After experiencing the catastrophic effects of 2 major tropical cyclones which devastated my country, my parents, who were farmers, and thousands of others in my community and country by extension, faced the harsh reality and continue to live by it. Our livelihoods are under immense threat, and I made it my goal to educate myself and others on the crisis that we are facing. Most children, young people, and adults still do not have the education they need to understand this challenge. We need immediate intervention if we are to survive.
Curious to find out how the Congo has been impacted by climate change, one youth activist shares his message.
Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. My name is Guillaume Kalonji. I'm a climate activist from Democratic Republic of Congo, founder and coordinator of Congolese Action for Nature, and I'm so excited to see what will happening from this COP28. I'm so excited to tell you now what's happening in Congo right now. So there is 2 big problems. First of all, Congolese people are victims of climate change, but they don't know that it is about the climate change. Secondly, they are facing an injustice, a climate injustice and a social injustice. They don't pollute a lot, like emitting CO2, but they are suffering a lot from the climate change. And another problem is about the just transition and protecting the Congoan forest. About the just transition, our daughter, our children are working in the mining seeds. Some people below 18, below 15 are now in the mining seats in the central part of Congo instead of being at school. And about the forests, we as climate activists, when we are fighting against deforestation, we are starting to be a target of those who are doing deforestation. That is a bit about what's happening in Congo. And then we have 27 million people suffering from food insecurity right now. That is thanks to the climate change, which is disturbing seasons in our country. Biodiversity in general in Congo is in danger. We know that Congo have some specific animals which we can't find outside Congo. We know that Congo have the second biggest forest. We know also that Congo have a lot of stock of water in Africa. But the problem is that those biodiversity, those resources are impacted by the climate change. Why? I have been in the capital state of Congo for 20 years, and since 2017 I'm now in the eastern part. The eastern part is the only one place in Congo where is very cold. You know, in the central part is very hot, but in the eastern part is very cold. Before to come at COP, I have been with someone who traveled from the capital state to the eastern part since 2004. And then this year he told me in the eastern part it's not cold like in the past. That means the temperature is changing a lot. In the eastern part it started to become hot also. So we know that naturally animals can survive in a territory when the temperature is good for them. Since the temperature is changing, it's now difficult to see some animals. Like when you are in the city, it's difficult to see birds, it's difficult to see some insects. That is one of big problems, since we know that between human space and all other species of animals, we have also another problem when we are losing forests by replacing it by oil palm. Monkeys need to eat fruits. Monkeys don't eat the fruit of oil palm. In the Congoan forests and in other Congolese forests, people from outside Congo are coming to cut natural forests and start planting oil palm. That's one of the biggest cause of the loss of monkeys. They lack of food, then they are just start dying because they don't know another place to go. My message to the world now is that there is no the fight against climate change without Congo. First, because the just transition which will be discussed in this COP, it's impossible without Congolese minerals. Secondly, it's impossible to fight against climate change without Congo, because we have the second biggest forest in the planet. So it's like a must. And I beg you to include local communities of Congo in the table of negotiation. They have some stories to share, and those stories can lead you to a right decision and see how to protect Congolese resources, Congolese forests, and to succeed in the fight against climate change. It's going to take all of us.
And that's a wrap on day 3 of COP28. Hope you enjoyed the tour of the Blue Zone. And by the way, make sure to send in your questions on Slido. It's going to help shape our show. It's going to take all of us, and we don't have time.
It's gonna take all of us